an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 152, 153, and 154. In these episodes, we have got to Sky Island. Y'all, I wasn't ready. I really didn't think we were going to be here this quick. I thought we were going to get another, 2 sections of episodes before we actually got there. And I'm delighted, because Sky Island is cool as fuck. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Gabriella for commissioning this episode. So guys, first I need to talk about the viewing experience. So I have to ask y'all's advice, or, if you have some insight into this. A couple people have mentioned some things in the Discord that I will mention. But I was watching this dubbed on Hulu, and then I started episode 153, and it was Japanese, and I was like, oh, I accidentally selected subbed instead of dubbed. But no, they just don't have it dubbed past episode 152. And so I go looking, and there are some people online who are like, Funimation has all of the dubs, so you have to go there. And I was like, all right, I'll just do that. That's fine. So I sign up for Funimation, and I open the app on my Roku television, and I find the episode. It says it's in English. I press play, and nothing happens. It's just a loading symbol that just kept... It started to play the very, very first notes of the intro song. And then it cut to the buffer, do 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 do, and I let it sit for over 10 minutes, and nothing happened. And then I turned my television off and started again. Still nothing. I went to Funimation on my browser, and it worked fine. But I was like, all right, well, wait a second. And as I'm looking for it on for the browser, I stumble across a link on their website that says Funimation is moving to Crunchyroll. What does that mean? So I am like, what does that mean? And basically all of their content is going to be owned by Crunchyroll soon anyway. So they're low-key advising people to cancel their Funimation subscriptions soon. And I'm like, oh, cool. I just signed up for this. That's annoying. But let me subscribe to Crunchyroll, since I was already thinking of doing that. And then I will use their viewing app instead of this one, which is clearly not working for some reason. So I also signed up for Crunchyroll. And that app works on the Roku TV, but it does not have the dubbed versions, despite them apparently meshing and being one company soon. They still only have the subbed version. So right now I have Funimation, and I'm going to probably cancel Crunchyroll for the time being and keep Funimation because they also have Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And I am going to just watch on my phone, which is what I did today. I just put it on my phone and watched it like that. Because I tried to go with the Japanese one when it began, and it is really remarkable how different my experience is. Now that I've gotten really used to the dub, going back, it just feels like it does not connect for me at all anymore. It was tough to begin with, but now that I've transitioned completely, it's just not happening if I try and just do the sub. So that is what I am doing. I wanted to take you all on that journey for me. Thank you. Florian says the 22nd of May, Netflix is supposed to get another batch of dubbed episodes. I hope it's several hundred. I hope that by batch they're like a lot, because, that's long enough away that I'm covering 2 episodes to 3 episodes at a time. And I don't want it to just be like enough to sustain me for a month of coverage and then it's like out again. But yeah, I don't understand why Crunchyroll doesn't have the dubbed versions as well if they're taking over and Funimation has them. So, and I thought I was crazy and that I just didn't know how like to get it to work, but no, it's just not there. Meanwhile, Funimation, I'm not actually sure how you get the sub version. I'm sure that there's a function for that, but it's automatically on the dub for Funimation. But yeah, so just frustrating, but I'm here now. I managed to get it to work, even though it was on my phone, which isn't ideal, but it's fine. And I did really enjoy these episodes, so that helped take some of the sting out of how annoying this was. The first of these 3 episodes is our friends just beginning to get onto the knockup stream. And like, there is not a lot to say about the first episode because it's pretty much just a chase and them managing to escape. And we've got Cricket smoking a pile of cigarettes, thinking about how these kids are like going after the dream that he has held for so long. It's like, really, there isn't a whole lot to talk about here. The one thing that got me was Luffy kind of fighting with the bird about it always having to face south. I love that he's mocking how the bird has no choice. And the bird is like, you know what, for that, I'm going to turn north and just fuck you. And the bird tries, but it starts to sweat and eventually it has to turn back around. Listen, I feel you, bird. I have had my bluff call before too. I know how that feels. And that was actually pretty funny. Florian says, I love Nami in that episode. She is a boss as always. Yeah, listen, Nami is out here just like running shit as usual. And these like scenes with them beginning to get to the edge of this whirlpool and realizing that that is what they are expected to do, is ride this whirlpool. I was not ready for that to be how this went. I can't blame anyone who was like, this is a fool's errand, I hate this, at all. Because that looked like a goddamn death trap. And what's so funny, like Luffy's doing the whole, I have to try, I know it may seem like a stupid dream, but, and you know what this reminded me of as they head towards this fucking death trap, and he's talking about believing in your dreams and whatever. Do you guys remember that episode of The Office where Michael is like following the GPS even though it clearly is pointing to the lake? And there's like, it's telling him to take a left down this ramp and it's like a boat ramp. And obviously the direction is wrong. And he's arguing with somebody in the car. I can't remember if it's Dwight or I feel like it was somebody more reasonable than Dwight, but it might have been Dwight. And he just keeps yelling, the machine knows, as he just drives his car into the lake. And I don't know what it is that Michael thinks is going to happen as he does that in the show, but whatever he thought was going to happen doesn't. And the car just fills with water and they have to make an escape before they drown. And his car is ruined and sinking to the bottom of a lake. That was how I felt about this. This show, guys, with its whole, like, you just have to believe even when things don't seem like they're going to work out. This is a dangerous, like, message to instill in children. This is the kind of thing that would make me as a kid do the thing where you jump off a roof with an umbrella kind of thing, you know, and you break your leg. Like, I know intellectually, even as a kid, I know that's not going to work, but I've been told so much that you just got to try and believe. I remember that mindset because there's a lot of media books and whatnot that also sort of sell you this story that as long as you believe in it enough, it'll just work out. And to be honest, I've retained some of that messaging. And as an adult, there are times where I still, even when things look really dark, I still tend to be somebody who's like, yeah, but it will probably work out though. Probably it will. Like, I just have this vibe that it's the exact opposite of Rashawn's vibe or Owen's vibe. So I still have it a little bit and I understand like where it comes from. But when it's this intense, I'm just like, that's a whirlpool, Luffy. That's bad. You don't want to do this. But what can you do? I also have to mention too, evidently the hyena is low-key not going to be an issue anymore. I really thought that was going to, and maybe the hyena will track him down. But right now it seems like Luffy just punched his face and that was it. And that was the end of that. And he's not even, I mean, I'm not mad about it because he sort of sucked, but it was rather surprising. So yeah, they begin to see this like storm gathering ahead. Shit starts to get very real. The whirlpool opens up and everybody is sort of like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And Nami is looking at the log pose and says it's pointing straight at those clouds. You mean that the island is in the clouds above that? And they're looking up and realizing that the clouds are directly over the whirlpool. They've been accompanied to this spot by the 2-8 brothers, who basically at this point are like, hey, good job. We got you here. We'll lead you to the ledge and then we're going to bail. You've got to get yourselves to the center and you'll be fine. You've got to position yourselves at the center and then you'll be fine. I doubt it. I'm sorry, sir. That feels wrong, but it's fine. As this is all going on, we keep just sort of randomly cutting back to Cricket, who is smoking a million cigarettes. And as they're heading toward the whirlpool, by the way, they run into this there are a lot of sea monsters in these episodes. The first one that we get, this yellow one, it's so funny because Luffy is the one who's like all about doing the whirlpool thing. Everybody else has major doubts, and Luffy's pretty much the only one who's like, yeah, we're going to fucking do this. And when this giant sea monster comes out, everyone's faces are completely terrified and shocked, except Luffy, who's just kind of got his lips pressed together and he's like, huh, wow. Like, they are all so scared, and he just seems like annoyed. I don't know. This cracked me up. And all of the other ships just sort of leaving them at the edge is so funny to me. They're like, congratulations, good luck, you guys. And I, like, in the way it's animated, those ships are like right on the edge of the whirlpool, but they are utterly unaffected by it. Which fine, that, I don't want them to be hurt and they don't want to go to Sky Island. But yeah, this whole thing is like very high stress. So yeah, this is Luffy's like, you think this is all make-believe? It may be a stupid dream, but I have to try. And it could be our greatest adventure. And I love Usopp and Nami crying as Usopp says it's already too late, because they thought that they could maybe convince him. But when he turns around and says it could be our greatest adventure, he's got this giant smile on his face and there's like all these sparkles illustrated around his head. This is one of those moments too where I'm like, okay, maybe you have to try, but I'm a head out. Good luck. Florian says, what do you think about the chicken design of the ship? Just a side question. I forgot about that. Okay. First of all, I'm excited that it's different from the ram that we had. I just like that there's been a change because I wanted one. The fact that it's a chicken, Zoro mentions it's not a good choice because they're talking about how the ship can fly now, and chickens don't even fly, so they should have made it a pigeon. And while Nami yells at him that that's not the point, honestly, I kind of agree with him. Like, if you're gonna give your ship a whole look, I want it to have the necessary energy for whatever it is you're going to be attempting. And if you pick a chicken, that feels like you're really making a statement you don't want to be making. You know, like, and I find it funny, and it suits if it were Usopp or Chopper alone manning this thing. But we're just sort of so there's a couple of things that I want to ask here, and I'm going to ask another one of them like a little further on because we haven't gotten to like the relevant issues there yet. But is a chicken culturally a symbol of cowardice in Japan the way it is in the United States? I am assuming it is not, but I am occasionally really surprised to find out that like certain tropes that I assume are just like English or American actually are from other countries as well. Maybe even originated with those countries and we adopted it or whatever. So I don't know if like they did this on purpose to sort of hint at how ridiculous it is, or if that's just like my American interpretation, but it really doesn't feel awesome. It's fine. But it does feel appropriate to our friends, and what a fucking bunch of like misfit weirdos they all are. So I think it works. You know, it's the kind of thing where it doesn't really work, but that's why it works, you know? So they are, okay. Yeah. This is the spot where they are looking out. They see the sea monster get sucked into the whirlpool. It's not able to attack them. Like we really thought it was gonna. And as they launch into the center of it, they just fucking free fall for a minute. And they're like in the air. And then all of a sudden they land. And Usopp's like, wait a second. I don't understand. Where did it go? And as he says this, we see bubbles coming up from underneath them. And Nami says that she can feel it and it's under the surface somehow. And then we get Blackbeard turning up, chasing them. This dude is so weird because Blackbeard is like, we are going to get them. We're going to make all this money. And then our guys get away and Blackbeard is just like, well, what do you guys want to have for dinner? Just does not seem to bother him. Everybody else is like, guy, that was a lot of money that we're losing. Why are you not upset about it? But he really like rolls with it in a way that I deeply enjoy. I like this a lot. So as like Blackbeard is rolling up on them, we've got the Ape Brothers watching this and going, did they know that people were coming out here to catch them? And when Blackbeard yells to Luffy about how they're here for their bounties, he mentions how much they're each worth. And Luffy's like, that's not right. And Usopp pulls out his binoculars and is looking and is like, oh shit, he's telling the truth. You guys, your bounties went up a lot. Congratulations to both of you. That is amazing. I love how excited they all are about it. And Sanji is really salty that there is apparently not a poster for him that he can see. There is a poster for him though, right? It's just not one of the ones that's being held up at that exact moment. But yeah, Nami is like, this isn't a good thing. And I'm like, I mean, no, but also you get why they're excited. So as they're in the midst of this like moment, this is when the sea begins to heave up from underneath them. And Blackbeard and his crew all just begin to be swept away because the sort of wall that comes off of the, I want to say like a plateau of water, it basically goes like vertical underneath their ship and they begin to slide back. the Going Merry is at such an angle for a time that they all have to hold on to the sides of the ship because they are going to fall off otherwise. And then the water disappears and there is like a column of air shooting straight into the sky. It is really neat looking. Like, I really enjoy whenever the show does weird effects like this, seeing the way that they choose to animate it. Like, this was a thing in the filler episodes about that, like, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like the Bermuda Triangle thing with the pumpkin pirates, and they have that like effect that's almost like a mother of pearl, like sparkling multicolored sheen in the air. I think that looked awesome, and it's a real shame that that was like, that effect was used up in filler episodes that were kind of whatever instead of being saved for this storyline, because this storyline is so, it would make really great use of that like sort of look, you know what I mean? Florian says, nope, only Luffy and Zoro have bounties. Sanji and the others have none. Really? I thought that guy, the drunk guy who got all of the posters, I thought he shuffled through like several of them. Maybe they were for just other people and I assumed that it was all our crew. So Gus says, Japan does not have the same thing with chickens. I do like that part of the Blackbeard's character. Their whole crew seems to believe wholeheartedly in fate and luck and has that, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be attitude. Yeah, this is something that I find really endearing. And I think that this is something that I think Owen has trouble understanding in me. Because like I said, I can be really optimistic and trust things are going to work out. And due to that, if things don't go my way, I will be really upset for like a moment and I get over it pretty quick, unless it's something really specific that I got obsessive about wanting, you know, but I just need a second. And then I will sort of let go in like, well, what can you do? Kind of way. And that's not to say I'm not disappointed, but I think part of that comes from having trust in the fact that things are going to work out. That trust fundamentally means I believe the direction I'm going is still the right direction, if that makes sense. And like I said, that is not to say there aren't instances where, like, for example, when we had our issues with our honeymoon and getting to the island and we lost a whole day at the island because of the problems that we were having with getting through to governing bodies at that island. I was devastated, you guys. I will not lie. That was like the kind of thing where I felt sick. I was so upset. But I had been planning that trip and that honeymoon for 2 years and also sunk more money into it than I have into any vacation in my life. So I think I get to be like particularly upset about that. But there are things where I'm just like, you know, I wanted X and I didn't get X, but as soon as I realize I'm not getting X, I start thinking about Y and I'm like, actually, Y might be better, you know? And then I will start to like move on and it'll be really, it's part of why I'm like, a little bit like that with relationships sometimes as well. Not to say that I'm like that with Owen, but it's been a little bit of a thing with me historically as well. So they are going up this pillar of air, and it is like I said, really, really cool looking. Everybody around them is a little bit in danger just from being so close by. And I love how the 8 brothers are just like cheering for our guys as they shoot straight up into the air. I love when they are all going, how is this even happening? How are we doing this? And they are having to hold on. Oh man, this just looks so nerve-wracking to me, guys. I have no upper body strength. I could not hold on worth a damn. It would not happen. So this is when they begin to sort of like tip in such a way that Usopp says, we are going to have to fix this or else we are going to tip backward into the ocean, because that is what has happened before to other ships, and they begin to see the evidence of when that happens, flying past them towards the flat sea. We see a giant sea monster that passes them. We see pieces of ships that are breaking up, and like, I think actually I said it was Usopp, but I think it's Sanji who's like, we have to do something. And it's Zoro who's like, okay, guy, what do you suggest? We don't really have options. We are stuck here the way that we're stuck here. And we have to fucking hope for the best. And that's kind of what we've got. And Nami is the one who steps up here and is like, this is a current. We are still technically on the sea. It's the wind causing like the spike here. It's still wind and water, which is what we had been dealing with this entire time as sailors. If we just figure this out, we can still manage it. And I love, of course, fucking Sanji just, thank you, Nami. Oh my God, sir, get a hold of yourself. So this is when they begin to rise up even more. I kind of enjoy how subdued Nico Robin is. Nico Robin is this whole time. Like, that's just sort of her deal. And I kind of like it. You know, it feels like she's a female Zoro, but with a slightly better attitude and a little bit more mysterious even, which really is saying something considering how little he feels like sharing with anybody. So as they sort of even out and head further up, that is the end of that episode. So then we go to episode 144, Skypeia. Or wait, no. I'm sorry. We need to go to 143 here. My bad. I went ahead too far. And this is when we get our first look at what this world is going to be like. It's like really, really close to a dream. Like if I were going to be asked as a child what we would have in Sky Island, truly, this is like exactly what I would have come up with as a little kid. And I am very excited over the fact that it is going to be this outlandish, because I know that this show can be super outlandish, but I wasn't really prepared. I think I said 143. I meant 153. I'm just not doing numbers today properly, guys. I'm sorry. But I kind of wondered if it was going to be sort of like, what's the word I want? If it was going to be like, yeah, we're in the sky, but there's like a rooting in reality that we're still going to attempt. And like there's just a certain sort of vibe that this sort of thing would take if you were gearing it slightly more towards a different type of readership or viewership. And I think that I was expecting that, even though the characters can be so off the wall. And we did have crossing over the Grand Line being this like hill of water. It was a huge adventure to do this. I saw how bananas that travel was. But then we got to the other side, and pretty much the world of the Grand Line, other than the navigation being really wonky, doesn't feel materially that different. So I think I just sort of figured we're going to fly into the sky, and then it'll be a lot like the ocean. It'll feel really similar, and we'll get occasional reminders that we're in the sky. No. This is full on like a kid making up a story as he says, like, there's an island in the sky, and you're like, oh really, what's that like? this is what they would do. And I'm just so very here for it. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because first we have them sort of landing hard and everybody gasping for air. And then they look and see that there is nothing but clouds below them. At this point, Usopp dives into the clouds. Everyone, I would like to take a moment. This does not feel correct to me. Usopp would never. Come on. Like, really? He has been the biggest fucking pussy this whole time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not even being derogatory with that. With good reason. Every time that he has been scared, almost 100% of the time, he should be scared. I am not mad at him. You just flew into the sky and then see that your whole ship is floating on clouds. And you just jump off the side into clouds after watching sea monsters flying down the pillar next to you. So you know the danger of there being sea monsters up here is very real, and you are not sure how a human body would function in these clouds. Will it hold you the same way? Like, how does any of this work? I don't know. That was not Usopp's moment. That was Luffy's moment. And it makes sense that Luffy wouldn't because he can't swim. But honestly, I think that Luffy would assume that only applies to water and this is fine. That feels like the kind of thing that he would say. Would be like, yeah, that's just water I can't swim in. This isn't water. So I bet it'll be fine. And we could have had the same sort of effect of him being chased down by these things. And it would have been like much more true to character. But whatever. It's fine. So I just was like so shocked to see him climbing up onto that railing and being like, I'm going in. And I was like, you are? You were literally crying a moment ago. How did you make this transition so quick? And when they can't find him right away, Nico Robin does something that I did not know she could do, that I do not care for at all. Luffy reaches down with his weird little rubbery arms, is reaching out for his friend but can't see in all of the clouds. And Nico Robin activates an ability. I think she says Ojos Fleur, like eye flower or something. And all of a sudden, Luffy's arm is covered in eyeballs, like her eyes. Y'all, look, this ability is very useful. I admit we need it. I'm sure it could come in handy in a lot of different situations and contexts. I don't think so. Letting hands sprout out of anywhere was weird enough. You telling me that you could just make your eyes pop out of people's body also? So that you can like see what's going on? I don't like that. It's creepy on so many different levels that I find it like offensive. Oh my God, I hated this. I hated this. And like I said, it's super useful. We needed this right now. And it's interesting that she hasn't really showed that she can do this. We haven't seen this before. So she's got some shit up her sleeve that she's not telling everybody about, which I do find very fascinating. But, no. No, sir. I am never going to turn my back on this bitch. If I found out, if I was in this crew and I saw her pull this right now, that's the nail in the coffin for me. You know, and you can see that, like, there's a couple different instances where she's interacting with Zoro. Zoro still does not trust her. And I am so glad that somebody is still like paying attention to her in that fashion. Everyone else has seemed to sort of just let their guard down. Not even that they trust her so much as they're not vigilant anymore about it. But Zoro is still like, yeah, what the fuck though? Like legit, what are you doing here? And I'm so glad somebody is keeping their wits about them with her. So anyway, they grab Usopp and drag him out, and he is being full on chased by all these creatures. There's like a sort of sea snake. There's like what looks sort of like a kraken, and they're getting attacked by these creatures. And Sanji and Zoro are fighting them and doing their thing the usual way they do, kicking, swording, all that stuff. But they are absolutely fucking exhausted after. And like Luffy managing to pull Usopp out of the water, even that was like a ton of effort. And we find out that because of the air being thinner up here, like everything is harder. These guys are complete badasses normally, but they barely manage to like do this here. There's still a jaw of one of these like fish kind of hanging over the edge of the ship, like linked on. And poor Usopp, guys, this made me laugh so hard. He's laying there and he's just sort of chanting to himself, like, scary, so scary, I think is what he's saying to himself, something like that. And he starts shaking. And Sanji is like, dude, what is going on with you? And he says, there's something in my pants. And he pulls this fish out that just flops out onto the deck. And Nico Robin just looks at him and says, not his day. Oh my God. That shit cracked me. I laughed so hard. That not his day. I don't know what, I think it's the fact that like she's acknowledging, yeah, this is fucked up, you know, because mostly when shit happens to Usopp, everybody's like, you idiot, which is normally deserved, to be honest. But Nico Robin is like, look, yeah, he fucked up, but like, this is extra. This is more than he really warranted with what he did. Oh my God. This is like, this kills me. And that fish is weird looking. She picks it up and she's like, oh, this is a skyfish, like in the log. I remembered reading about that and thinking it sounded weird, but now I'm like, oh, it just looks like it evolved to survive up here. It's really going for things though. Like it's like, while she's holding it. And I don't know why, but I like kept thinking of, you know, those big mouth bass that you like hang on the wall that sing about like sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the clouds. You guys remember those things? Just kept reminding me of those because they have this like stiff, repetitive movement that they do. Anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. So then we have this moment with, and this, I really don't know what to make of. Chopper's looking out and sees a ship in the distance get cut in half. Like it's like split down the middle. There's smoke. And he's like so freaked that he doesn't even know how to like explain to them what it is that he just saw. And as he says this dude comes flying toward them. He is carrying what looks like a bazooka and a shield. He's got wings and he's wearing a like sort of tribal mask with horns coming off it, long hair in like loops at the back, and a grass skirt, and he's riding it. The motion looks like he's on a surfboard. But when he leaps into the air, it seems like he isn't actually riding anything. It's like he's got skis on his shoes, but they're very small. They're not like the size of skis, but they're performing the same sort of function. And he comes in here and absolutely wastes every single one of their fighters in like seconds. It's just no contest at all. And all of a sudden, he's in the air. He's aiming his bazooka. Usopp continues repeating Sky Island scary. And then all of a sudden, this knight shows up, spears him with a lance. And that guy disappears as the knight lands and introduces himself and explains some of the situation. So his name is Gonfall, and he has a bird named Pierre that can turn into the ugliest fucking Pegasus you've ever seen. Truly awful. Very upsetting. Low-key looks like it's got some sort of rash because it's like pink, but it has like red spots. So it just gives the impression of something that's been like shaved down to show its pink skin and then got bad like razor burn or something. And again, all the guys are like gasping for air. They were just not up for it. And Gonfall says, "I'm doing my duty. This one's on the house." And I was like, on the house, what does that mean? And we find out that there's like a transactional system for this to happen. That, he first calls them the Blue Sea people because they aren't from around here. And I should mention, this guy has legs so long. He looks like Sailor Moon, honestly. He's got like those kind of proportions. And his arms underneath his armor are stick-like. So thin. You have reached the White Sea, 7,000 meters in the air. And ordinary Blue Sea people can't possibly endure the White Sea. I think he says that it's called even further up. And Nami says, okay, so who is that fucking guy? And he says, no doubt you have many questions, but we have business to discuss. I am a soldier for hire. So basically, if you would like me to continue to defend you, it's going to cost you 5 million for one X-Stol whistle. And they keep talking about the millions and billions. So their like currency up here clearly works at a different level than the bells even do. And then he realizes that like they don't even know what he's talking about here. So what it is, it's a whistle that they can use in an emergency to call him for help. And Luffy continually tries to use this thing for just little bullshit. And they have to stop him because he's going to waste it. And it was extremely expensive, so much as they know. And also we find out here that there was another way to get up here, not using the knockup stream, that is a lot less dangerous. And they just didn't know about it. And Nami is pretty mad at Luffy because of the fact that he wasn't willing to like wait it out and be a little bit more patient and find a less traumatic way of getting up here. But yeah, Gonfall is like, well, you all made it. And that's usually how it goes. Either everybody makes it or nobody makes it. So congratulations on being one of the everybody makes it crews. So yeah, this whole thing is so bizarre, guys. And I don't know how I feel about Gonfall because he has that like, honestly, especially considering the optics of the guy that attacked them, that dude has like a sort of native look, and this dude has like the look of a crusader. And that for me lately is just very like colonizer energy, and I'm sort of not about it, even though this guy is supposed to be a good guy. I'm just a little bit like, is he though? And I know that probably he actually is, but I just have this like feeling lately of this sort of character being immediately made into a hero that I'm like, I don't know about that. So yeah, we see Pierre turn into a Pegasus. It is hilarious. It's this like really big dramatic thing. We see the silhouette first, And then all of a sudden the like color comes back into it and you get to see just how fucking weird this Pegasus is. And everyone sort of calms down and says, wow, that's really something. Y'all, that was another moment where I laughed out loud. There was a lot of like sincere laughs this episode. So we continue on this like cloud ocean, and Luffy jumps off at one point onto what appears to be like a bouncy sort of marshmallowy texture of cloud. This is what I'm talking about, y'all. He is bouncing like it's a trampoline, but sinking into it like it's a marshmallow. And this is like all I ever wanted as a kid. I swear to God. Do y'all know how sad I was when I found out how hard trampolines are? You know, because they're like a hard surface and they have to be to have the tension. But I didn't understand that as a kid. The only thing that sort of came close to this was those bouncy castles. And I loved those. But, you know, you don't find those every day. Those are not a common thing to run into, a bouncy castle. So then, as they're like navigating this area, they come up against this giant entrance, waterfall that's like pouring down onto the entrance, and a sign that says Heaven's Gate. And anybody who grew up in the 90s and 2000s remembers the Heaven's Gate cult, and there is just an association with this name now that cannot be shaken. And this felt for me like a giant fucking waving red flag, and that they needed to get the hell out of there ASAP. It hit all the alarm bells for me. Did not care for it. So of course Luffy is just like, yeah, let's do it. And Sanji is rightfully like, this sounds like the kind of thing that happens if you've died. To which Zoro rightfully is like, well, maybe we've died. Has that ever occurred to you? And as they cruise in, this old lady with wings comes out and takes their photo like several times. She snaps a few times and tells them that there is a fee for coming in, but also it's not up to her to guard the place. She says that she's the inspector, the Heaven's Gate inspector. Are you here for sightseeing, warmongering, or other? And basically tells them like, yeah, you can go in without paying because that's not on me. But there's like a tone to it of, well, it's going to cost you. It's 1 billion extol per person. And everybody's reeling at the number, even though they don't really know how much that is. It may be like $20, you know? So they're like, so you're saying we can just go? And she says, yeah. And sort of just watches as they go. And then this crab turns up, or is it a lobster? And it like grips their boat. I think it's a lobster, right? I'm looking at it. Let's see. She says, a second line, the White Sea's famous express lobster. And he picks their boat up and shoots down this like really fast, this sort of road kind of that's made out of cloud. And poor Usopp is screaming. Everybody is just sort of like, what is this? And we get to see like this ribbon of road come into focus ahead of them that is so, it's all over the place. This shit looks like it is going to be the kind of ride that makes you throw up for sure. 7 illegal entrants have passed into God's land, Skypeia. Bestow upon them heaven's judgment. And she smiles as she says it. And we just see this like road ribbon. And I was like, what is this bitch up to? Honestly, I got pretty like, I love like when I'm playing video games, doing that thing where you save, but then you do the kind of like fucked up thing instead just to see what happens. And that's kind of what it feels like we got here, where we could have had a thing where they could pay a fine somehow. But instead it's just like, oh no, we're just not going to pay it. And then we're going to see what you do to us, because that might be kind of interesting. So that is the end of that episode. And then we go to the actual Skypeia and the angels. And they are like calling themselves straight up angels. And at one point talk about how there's an island that they don't go to because it's like God's island. So when I said earlier that I wanted to talk to y'all about like how things work here, what I'm curious about is the imagery that feels really Christian here. That, you know, I know that Christianity, because of colonialism, has just spread all over the world. So of course there are Japanese Christians, but I'm interested in that being chosen for this specifically. And I'm wondering if like that is a thing because that is Oda's like cultural understanding, perhaps Oda's actual religion. Was this chosen because it's like a little bit more marketable to American audiences as well? Is it just because it's so sort of ubiquitous that it feels like shorthand everybody can understand, rather than something really specific to one country that it would be like difficult to have to give backstory and everything easily? I'm just really curious about the choices for this to feel so Christian, like, you know, everything about the very basics of like a kid's understanding of what heaven would be. That's sort of what this feels like to me, you know? And like the island looks so cool too. There's like, it's just got a look to it. And there was something about the way that everyone reacts to this that sort of assisted in this being so much fun, because there isn't a soul that isn't hugely impressed. Even Zoro at one point is just like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. And, you know, Zoro just keeps his mouth shut most of the time, unless he's just being a dick for fun. This, like, moment of everyone just looking around with big eyes and being like, wow, is so much fun. It's just really nice to like imagine these moments, especially as an adult, when you know what this feeling was and you have lost it. It's hard to get again, you know? Like the closest thing that I can think of that I've seen of this recently was when I went to, and this is so sad now because of what's happened since, but going with Rashawn to Wizarding World. And her walking through the, like, you know, doorway that they have into Diagon Alley. And she just stood there and looked around and just started crying. And, like, it was the kind of thing where I remember my mom saying when I was little, we got to Epcot Center and I was so excited that I ran back and forth and then stopped and threw up in the bushes because I was just, like, way too overexcited. And it was sort of like the adult version of that, where it's just so much that you can't handle it kind of thing. And I just really enjoyed everybody having their moments of like, no way, this is rad. And everything is made of clouds and they're like able to bounce on some of them, but some of them are like wet. And we find out later that all of the clouds do come in different densities and there's like different uses for them depending on what they are. So they all, except Zoro, get off of the ship. Zoro, as impressed as he is and as cool as he finds this, he's a lot less, he doesn't want to walk away from the ship because he's not sure if dropping anchor is going to work here the same way. And when he drops it, it does seem to work, but it's like, still, it's sort of hard to know, you know, he just like looks up and is like, well, okay, the ground might feel cool. And maybe this is working. This is just like so much different than I imagined. So then we have the introduction of the angel woman who is playing a harp. It is that kind of like on the nose. And guys, I don't know if it's just like me having watched too many horror movies, but the whole time that they were hanging out with this girl, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And what I kept thinking of here was the terminus episode of The Walking Dead. And when I say that, I realize that I have basically used Walking Dead as an example of bad writing every time it's brought up. This is one of the times where I'll say, I didn't like what they did, but that's not why I'm saying it. It's not because this writing is bad, but it's a similar vibe of like, this feels like it should be comforting and reassuring, but something is off and I'm worried because everything is so nice. And by the end of the episode, I've kind of gotten over that to a point and feel like maybe it is just nice here. But, you know, I don't know. So, Canis, thank you, Florian. Canis has this also like a little cloud fox named Sue who is so cute, and I just really want her as a Pokemon. And she is like showing Luffy how to drink the water out of one of these fruits that's growing that's like got the sort of properties of a coconut. I should also mention that Canis has like antenna the way that you see on like aliens. And despite the fact that she has antenna and wings and whatnot, that does not stop Sanji at all. He is still 100% into her. But yeah, Luffy begins to drink it and is just like delighted. He makes this face like it's one of the best things he's ever tasted. And this girl's dad is out here on like the equivalent of like a ski-doo. You know, he's on a jet ski that is really, really hard to steer. And this is when I started to sort of like grow more comfortable, because she is so serene and like there's something about that kind of serenity that feels sinister to me. But then he rolls in a mess, talking about how like getting this thing to stop is a little tricky, and just he feels so goofy and completely not like, he doesn't seem to have, to me at least, the necessary attitude for deception. He seems a lot more what you see is what you get. So I don't know if that's fair, but his whole attitude just made me kind of step back and be like, maybe this is fine, actually. And we have an ongoing joke where Luffy tries to like use the jet ski and sucks at it, and he gets like thrown into the quote water, and it turns out, oh, he can indeed drown. Like that, he can't swim in this any better. And of course they save him and he's fine. But then they turn around and Nami has taken the jet ski out and she is really good at it. And Luffy is so fucking salty. And honestly, this was great. I love him continually being jealous of the fact that she can do this on first try, because they like emphasize it takes 10 years to learn how to use one of these things. And she's out here just nailing that right away. And he even yells a couple of times, like, fall off. And I was like, man, this is really... I have, like, played with little boys when I was a kid who actively wished me harm because they were mad I could do a thing. I really loved it. So they all are hanging out in Canis' house, talking about how they have never felt so relaxed. And then Canis starts to explain dials. That's what she calls them. And it's these seashells that they can use, like electronics, basically. It can record their voices. It can record video. She says it can even store smells, which that really, I found that like so neat because that's even sort of beyond the technology that we've got, you know? And all of these things are what power their machinery. And she essentially is like, I think that we wouldn't really be able to survive up here if it wasn't for these things. So yeah, I think this is pretty neat. And Zoro is like, where do those even live? We didn't see a bottom tier sea. And she's like, oh, in the shallows on the reefs. And this whole like introduction of this type of technology is really interesting because I wonder whether or not it's possible to use these outside of this world, or if it's something that like only kind of works up here, you know, because she uses one that like blows wind, which would be super handy if you're sailing and you become becalmed, you know, all of these things, they could be extremely fucking handy. And especially if you're like one of the only people who's ever made it up here and made it back, assuming they ever go back, you're not going to be in competition with many other people who have the same access to any of these objects, you know? So yeah, this could all be like incredibly helpful to them. But as they are talking about this, they're wondering where Nami has gotten to. And the father says something about how he is a little bit concerned. And it turns out there's an island out there that is off limits. And if you venture far enough, it's like not that far away. And it's certainly possible that she has wound up there and stopped out of curiosity without knowing how dangerous it is. And indeed, we wind up seeing that she is, she spotted it and is heading toward it. And the episode ends, they're all eating and hanging out together. The episode ends with them saying, oh yeah, that place is the upper yard. Nobody is allowed to set foot upon it. But it's not that far. And they're like, well, what's wrong with it? And there are these enormous trees when she pulls up. It's really, really, really cool looking, honestly. I really love anytime that you've got giant trees. I'm like into it. But she says it's sacred ground. And it's also where God lives. And that's the end of the episode. That's where God lives. Oh, okay. So we're doing that. I wasn't expecting it. I accept it. I certainly want to know. But what? Word. So, oh, that's true. Gus says from Nolan's journal, they read that you can use a waiver down on the Blue Sea. Thank you, Gus. I forgot about that. So yeah, nope, not many people will have one. So yeah, I'm into it. I really am enjoying Sky Island so far. I'm looking forward to like what other weird shit's going to pop up here because obviously there's quite a bit that we've got in store. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much for joining me. Thank you to Gabriella. I don't think I saw her in the chat, but if you're listening, Gabriella, thank you for commissioning this episode. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.